And this is my project on human trafficking, the largest growing form of modern-day slavery. Human trafficking is a form of modern-day slavery that illegally exploits and transports individuals for the purpose of labor or sex where others benefit financially. So why should you care? It can happen to anyone at any given time. Not one person is an exception, and human trafficking is extremely hard to escape. Knowing key facts about this can save your life and other people's lives. So, women and girls account for 75% of the victims, and 40% of these are minors. They are mainly trafficked for sexual exploitation and are 3 times more likely to suffer physical or extreme violence than men and boys are. The key signs are a person who appears submissive, fearful, or timid, disoriented, confused, lacks freedom of movement, in the company of someone who seems to be in control or like they are unable to go where they need to go or say what they want to do, say what they need to say. Someone who's being coached on what to say, has bruises, physically harmed or disheveled, and a lot of times they'll have tattoos or brands that they're hesitant to talk about if you ask them what that is. There are many more signs, but these are the key things to look for if you suspect that someone is being trafficked. More signs are, this is more in a healthcare setting, but seeking treatment for sexually transmitted infections frequently, and also seeking abortion, multiple abortions frequently as well. Oh, and that would be also going along with these other signs too. That would not be just the only sign. So here are an example of what the tattoos and brandings can look like. These are real victims and real tattoos. Usually they're going to be something that shows ownership, that their trafficker or pimp wants to show their ownership over them. So like here is this person's trafficker's initials with a crown over it. And then over here we have a barcode. Again, just showing that this person can be bought and sold for trafficking. So trafficking occurs everywhere. Asia and the Pacific have the highest rates of human trafficking, with 29.3 million reported victims. America is 4th with 5.1 million reported victims. The current 5 countries that rank worst for human trafficking are Libya, Eritrea, Yemen, the UAE, and then Turkmenistan. How many people does this affect? So 49.6 million people were victims of forced labor and marriages as of 2021. And then sex trafficking is the most common type of trafficking in the United States. So this visual over here, it says which kid is being sold for sex, and all of them, or majority of them, are being circled, and they all are different races and ethnicities and genders, and it kind of just really shows that anyone can be trafficked. It's not just one type of person. Forced commercial sexual exploitation generates $243 billion in illegal profits annually. Human trafficking is the second most profitable illegal industry in the U.S. This is essentially just because the more victims a trafficker has, the greater the financial reward. Narcotics and drugs and weapons can only be sold once. So you would sell one batch of drugs once, you'd get one profit, and you'd have to make more. So you'd use some of that profit to get more supplies. But a person can be sold repeatedly over and over again and bring in a new profit each time, but they will still have the same person and not have to buy more supplies, if that makes sense. So a person is essentially giving someone unlimited financial gain over and over again. This is just a pie chart showing the illegal profits from human trafficking. Sexual exploitation, $99 billion. Locating human trafficking victims. So victims of sex trafficking are often found in imposter massage businesses, escort services, brothels, truck stops, strip clubs, hotels, online advertisements on the streets, or child brides are oftentimes trafficked. In Ohio, massage businesses and truck stops are like 2 huge hotspots for human trafficking, and I'll touch more on this later on. So how are people entered into human trafficking? According to the International Organization for Migration, Almost half of the child trafficking cases involve a family member manipulating the child into sexual exploitation. This isn't always like a mom or dad or parent, it can be extended family members. Tactics that traffickers will use include physical violence, threats, false promises of employment or marriage, or as reinstitution for providing basic needs of food and shelter. This is why oftentimes traffickers will go after people in poverty as well, because they will promise things like food, shelter, money, and then end up trafficking them. Traffickers search for victims through websites, social media, public gatherings, businesses, or personal interaction with others. Who are traffickers? So just as there's not one type of victim, there's not one type of trafficker. Traffickers can be foreign or U.S. citizens, family members, partners, acquaintances, strangers. They can act alone or be part of a human trafficking ring or enterprise. People often incorrectly will assume that all traffickers are males. However, the United States has prosecuted a lot of cases against women traffickers. A lot of time males will use women to get more victims because people tend to trust women more and not suspect them of trafficking. Traffickers can be pimps, gang members, diplomats, business owners, labor brokers, farm, factory, company owners. Again, this is just highlighting that it can be literally anyone. More ways traffickers can take advantage are just kind of exploiting sadness and discouragement of individuals or couples who are not able to have children on their own. So they will sell babies of women who they're prostituting, because obviously the traffickers cannot pay and afford for these children. Human trafficking in Ohio. So Ohio's I-75 interstate is an area that raises a lot of concern for trafficking in Ohio and also just across the country in general. There's a lot of movement back and forth on I-75, so this is really easy for traffickers to transport victims and get away with human trafficking easily. A lot of times this is connected with the drug trade in Ohio, specifically the heroin trade. As I touched on before, massage parlors are huge spots for sex crimes in Ohio. A lot of them have been busted lately and they're trying to get more, but massage parlors, for some reason, tend to be a huge hotspot for trafficking. And then Ohio is a large hub for trafficking due to its close proximity to many major cities. And also, Ohio has the largest number of truck stops, which truck stops are also a huge hotspot for human trafficking. As I said, I-75 is a very developed highway system, and it makes trafficking easy and accessible to transport victims across the state and to other states. Ohio ranks 6th in the nation for human trafficking in the number of cases reported to the state just through Hotline. Okay, now we have a little video.
Just yesterday, police raided a massage parlor in Pickerington for a human trafficking investigation. Today, we wanted to know just how common this issue is in Central Ohio.
And exactly how do you identify it? 10 TV's Terry Jabor spoke to the Ohio Human Trafficking Task Force to find out.
Human trafficking is happening all over Ohio, and it happens in many different forms.
Maria Bush with the Ohio Human Trafficking Task Force says trafficking is an issue here in Central Ohio. She says it happens to those who are most vulnerable.
Maybe people who are experiencing homelessness or housing instability, people who may be undocumented.
According to the National Human Trafficking Hotline, in 2021, there were 291 cases of trafficking identified with 424 survivors. Majority were female in sex trafficking cases, but Bush says trafficking exists in many other forms.
It can also look like labor trafficking, where oftentimes foreign nationals who are recruited from their home country are then forced to work a job that's different from the one they were told, and then their wages are withheld from them. It can also look like commercial sex involving individuals with substance use disorders, where a trafficker is withholding drugs from victims to get them to engage in commercial sex, bring money back to the trafficker.
Bush says it doesn't matter if it's a rural, urban, or suburban area. Trafficking happens everywhere. She says these are some signs it could be happening.
Having their wages withheld from them, or having their documentation withheld, or maybe victims are actually living in their place of work.
When it comes to survivors, Bush says they need support, and that support is different for everyone.
So oftentimes victims are in need of basic services, whether that's shelter or even tangible needs like food and other forms of tangible assistance like bus passes.
If you suspect trafficking, call the National Human Trafficking Hotline at 888-373.
Just yesterday, police raided a
Okay,
massage
so that video is
parlor.
just talking about trafficking in Ohio. Again, they're really trying to crack down on it in bus places. So, what can you do? If you see something, say something. This is the biggest thing that most people can do, because obviously it can be very hard to spot human trafficking sometimes, and it's a very dangerous thing to get involved in. Obviously, know the signs and the hot spots for human trafficking. Knowing the hot spots can kind of help you know where to be aware of it and be on the lookout. And then promoting ethical hiring within businesses to prevent human trafficking. As they said in the video, labor trafficking is another huge thing. So having open and honest conversations when you're looking for jobs to make sure that the company is not going to be exploiting you is super important. And that is it.